So open the next drive with a double tight end trade here, and then we're going to play action pass and take a shot deep. So, one thing to notice here is how effective this play action pass was. As Ash rolls out of that, the entire defensive line except for this backside defensive end is engaged. And the linebackers are still flowing toward this. So very effective play fake there. You can see Ash has a ton of room to work and no real threats to him. He's able to take this shot downfield. He just overthrows Davis a little bit on this play. Just want to go back. So, a little bit better throw would have been a touchdown. You don't want to miss on an overthrow in that situation, obviously, but if we go back to this trade and just examine what we did to the defense, when we trade these two tight ends over, essentially what's going on is we have two bunched receivers on each seam now. And that receiver on this seam over here caused the safety to have to widen to the seam. And that created the 2-on-2 matchup in man coverage that we wanted to get. So these sort of routes were open for us, crossing and deep routes, all day long against the coverage that Tech ran. So we could have taken, 5 or 6 more shots deep and probably come away with 2 or 3 more touchdowns on deep passes if we wanted to. But the running game was working so well that we didn't need to. Again, just beautiful what we created. We created space for our quarterback and time, and then we created a one-on-one matchup down the field. And all of that is predicated on the threat in the running game. So on 2nd and 10, we motion out and then run power read here. And we give to Monroe and gets a nice gain on the play. If we go back to that, though, let's watch a couple things. First, let's just watch how this motion affects the defense. When Fozzie motions out, then this corner, he becomes the number 1 receiver to the outside, so this corner becomes responsible for him. And at the last second, this linebacker has to come out. Now, the linebacker's confused about his assignment because they end up doubling Fozzie to the outside, which doesn't make a lot of sense here. But what that does is that removes a player from the box here against the power read. So one thing is, I think Ash should have actually kept on this power read because the defensive end's not crashing hard. And he's certainly got this inside lane on the power. And if you look at that, if he keeps this ball and runs behind his lead blocker, there's no one who can make a play on him until a safety level. So that's one run I wish, I bet the coaching staff wish we had gotten back. But even with that being the case, Monroe is easily able to get the corner here. And getting Monroe the ball in space and letting him try to make someone miss is never a bad option for a play. So we come right back on 3rd down and run another play from forward receiver look. And this is actually the same play we ran earlier that Ash picked up the first down on. We're running seams and hitches, and this time he doesn't see anything. One of the things that happens with man coverage is that the defense is going to have its back to the quarterback. And so when that happens, sometimes you're going to get running lanes to open up. And Ash recognizes that here and takes off. This also kind of plays into the slide protections that we were running. When you split your line the way we have, and you kind of slide pass rushers off to one side, you can create running lanes as well. So all these are huge factors. Get away with a clip right there, though. But this is a huge play for David Ash in the long run. I think certainly Harsin envisions our offense getting back to being part spread, part power running in the long run here. And a big part of that is David Ash being able to be a running threat from those spread sets. Because then you can spread the defense out with a lot of different vertical threats. And then that opens up running lanes and gives you advantages in the box. So it makes for really easy decisions from the quarterback. about when to run and when to pass, and easy diagnosis of the defense. So I think you'll continue to see that incorporated more and more, particularly on third downs as we go forward. And that's an important component of our offense, because if we're picking up, have two bad plays on first and second down, and we've got a 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 5, then we'll have the ability to convert that and keep drives alive, keep pounding the defense. So here's another really important play for our offense. See us motion his head in there, and then you can see David Ash recognizing there's a blitz coming from the corner and changing the play. And then we get into a power run going to the opposite side of the field. So the corner is able to sneak in there and stop that play before it gets much of a gain, but that's huge for our offense to get out of a bad play. Even if it's just for a 2-yard gain, not giving up the loss on the play. So I'm betting the call on this play was a jet sweep to Monroe coming across here, and that corner would have blitzed right into that jet sweep. So the fact that we were able to get out of that play and not have a loss in the play, mitigating risk and taking away negative plays in this offense is going to turn it into having a much bigger upside. I think we only had maybe, one tackle for a loss in the run game in this game, and that was a big part of the reason why we were able to be so dominant and we were able to score on pretty much every drive. So on second down, we see the Wildcat for the first time in the game, and we used burst motion in this game to get to the Wildcat. And then we have the speed sweep package with the power run. And this is obviously a hugely successful play for us in this game. A couple things to notice. One would be this speed sweep. One of the things that it does in conjunction with the power is it pretty much requires the defense to commit 2 defenders to the backside. And then Ash split out ride requires another defender out there. So that gets the defense down to 8 defenders at most in the box. So you're putting 8 defenders at that point against 8 blockers. So what we do is we create at least one double team along the front, and that's going to put Fozzie in a one-on-one matchup with a defensive back, ideally. Now here we miss one assignment. Hopkins misses his assignment as he's blocking down. But we're still able to kind of seal those players out of the play. Fozzie gets to the second level, and the defensive back is the first one in on the tackle. Here the defensive back aggressively makes the tackle. As this game wore on, the aggressiveness started to kind of leak out of their defensive backs in terms of wanting to come up and make the tackle. I want to talk about one more thing here before we move on, and that's this burst motion. Can pretty much guarantee that there's some quick snap play off this burst motion as well. So if the defense is not respecting this initial alignment, we can snap and run a QB sneak or a dive play out of it as well. And given the fact that this is a red zone formation, that could be pretty valuable at some point, in terms of our burst motion. So it might seem kind of silly to watch us go through this burst motion time and time again, but at some point you'll see the value of that. So 3rd and 1, and we go big personnel and run power O here. This is a great play for us throughout the game. Particularly watch this double team really opens up that power play. And then we create the one-on-one with the defensive back. A couple things I want to talk about here. First is how this alignment is important strategically. What we've been seeing from defenses is edge pressure, like I've kind of been saying throughout the last few highlights. And, one way to combat edge pressure is to try to use screens and quick game and stuff like that, and we've been doing that. But this is sort of a different response. What Harson's doing here is creating a really wide line and saying, okay, well, if you want to bring edge pressure, that's fine. You can devote your speedy players to kind of the outside of this play. And I'm just going to run inside you. Now, if instead you decide to bring them inside and stack the box, then you've done exactly what I want, which is put your faster defenders inside and allowed me to get at them with my blockers. So you can see that strategy play out here. Both Kansas and Tech did not sub personnel to respond to this personnel package. So if they want to bring pressure on the edge and try to run this play down, well, the line is so wide that we only have to pick up one of those edge defenders on the play side of the play, and we can leave the other one unblocked. And that just helps us create, again, numbers advantages inside the box. The other thing I want to look at on this play, just the dominance of the blocking. I mentioned this double team from Allen and Hopkins, and this is consistently a great block for us throughout the game. They just create an incredibly wide hole there. Pullman doesn't even have anyone to block as he comes down here. The middle linebacker committed to the inside gap, so he's just looking for someone to seal. Snow does a great job of finding his assignment. And Tech is not as aggressive as they need to be there. It's one thing to have numbers to the play side, but if you lose every single matchup, then it's not going to go well for the defense. And the last thing is, Joe's physical style. You can see him run over the defensive back. And DJ Johnson came up to Phillip pretty aggressively there and does make the stop, prevents a touchdown play there. But if you watch closely here, you can actually see Bergeron knock the will to tackle right out of DJ Johnson, because that's the last moment in the game when DJ Johnson really tried to make a physical tackle. The rest of the game, he was either diving at running back's feet or sort of hiding behind another defender or blocker. We created consistently one-on-one matchups between him and our running backs, and he wanted nothing to do with them from that point forward. So then we finish up this drive by going back to Wildcat and running the power again. Pick this speed sweep, and Fozzie breaks the tackle and takes it for the touchdown. So just to look at that again from a blocking standpoint. This time, at this point, Tech pretty much knows what's coming when they see that burst out to the Wildcat. And this time, this defensive back comes up and aggressively tries to attack the hole. He's going to try to squeeze this hole. There's a problem with that, though, and that's that CJ Johnson versus a defensive back is not a good matchup for the defense. So he has no ability to impact this play. You can see here again, really good job in controlling the edge. Pullman this time is blocking out the defensive end. And Snow gets to the second level. DJ Johnson does manage to slip in here, but is not able to do much physically against Fozzie. Fozzie runs right through that tackle and runs through a second defensive back on his way to the end zone. Should be noted, Fozzie is just running extremely hard right now. He's playing really fast. His decision making is great. I think eventually you'll see us actually open this up for him, and rather than just pre-snap calling the sweep or the power O, actually allowed him to read a defender and make this a true read play, and that'll make those two plays even more effective. Make it even harder for the defense to consistently account for one or the other.